every single one of them feels like they're not being served well. They're being ripped off. They can't believe that we live in this wealthy country full of minerals and sun and beautiful, clean oceans, and we are struggling to buy houses, struggling to buy a bag of groceries, struggling to get care for our kids through NDIS, all those sorts of things.
Hello, everybody. This is A Piece of Kate. I'm Emma Pegram.
I'm Kate Hulett. Sorry, I just thought you'd come up with a new name then because I heard pizza.
A Piece of Kate.
Exactly.
It is Sunday evening and it's 27 days until the election.
27 degrees as well. And can you explain where we're sitting today?
Yeah, we're sitting in the campaign office.
Mm-hmm. This is the front section of the campaign office. So if you do come to visit us in 106 High Street Mall.
This is what you'll see. We've got T-shirts, we've got call flutes.
Stickers, a printer. Okay, so
I missed a few things over the weekend because I was away for a personal commitment. Sadly, I missed you.
Oh, I missed you too.
So I thought I'd just get an update, and through that, the audience can get an update on what happened. I mean, weekends are kind of big campaign times, so lots goes on.
As you said last week, every day in a campaign feels like a week. So 100%. It feels like I haven't seen you for a year. So
agreed.
It's like
and
a fresh
really
friendship that I have to figure out. Who are you?
So, I mean, Friday. Let's start with Friday.
We had who knows what happened I don't know what happened in the day, but in the nighttime we had a kind of a meet and greet thing at North Rio Bowls, which was nice, except it was gale force conditions and
perfect.
There were some interesting incidents like call flutes kind of flying through the sky like bits of machinery ready to slip
What,
through.
Your call flutes? Or?
Correct. There were people falling over trying to catch them while I was being filmed by the ABC. It was a real, it was dramatic, you know?
I mean,
it was dramatic.
It wouldn't be Kate without a little bit of a...
I mean, I didn't make the wind happen, although anyway. We were there along with a bunch of other candidates. Liberals never come to those things. There was a table for Labor, but they came just at the end as we were kind of packing up.
Was Josh a bit busy?
I think he had some stuff on. So he came for an interview with ABC and then chuffed off. Yeah, that was Friday night. But by the end, I was kind of
crooked. Like
my body was just being held up by the bar.
Because, I mean, you forgot what you did on Friday, but I actually do know you went out filming all day.
Oh, my God.
So that's a big day.
Yeah. It's quite stressful having a camera in your face all day, but...
But you got to bring the people the content.
It's all about the content, baby.
Yeah, so
that was a big day.
Big day. Lots of good crew down at the Bowls Club. Like good chats.
I mean, I had some really nice chats, particularly with obviously it's in North Fremantle, so I talked to lots of North Fremantle people who are outside of the state electorate, so they were really aware of the campaign that we ran, but they were unable to vote, so they were thrilled to be able to vote. And we just talked about, the big stuff that everyone's really concerned about, and it's always really reassuring, when you have those moments of self-doubt, thinking, are we hitting, have we got the right messaging, are we doing the right thing? And then you have conversations with actual real people and you think, oh yeah, we are doing the right thing. This is exactly what this place needs and this country needs, is more voices and more representation. So yeah, it's reassuring. And aside from the violence of the call floats flying through the air, it was quite a beautiful night.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Then Saturday, you backed it up. You met with the one and only.
Oh my gosh.
Ms. Fiona Stanley. Queen of all queens.
She is such a queen, and she is so warm and friendly. I mean, she's full of life, and I wrote today adventure, and she really is full of adventure, and she has lived her life. She's really squeezed every drop of life out of her life, and I just enjoy spending time with her so deeply. And it was a little bit like the conversations with Joe Valentine. They're so windy and rambly, and they just suddenly, you're talking about, health, and then you're talking about communities, and then you're talking about, and it's just beautiful and exciting, and just I love to bask in those people's glows. Of course, what she's so interested in is the foundations of a happy life start effectively in the womb and then at birth. And yeah, we kind of talked a little bit about that stuff broadly, and then we kind of narrowed down onto childcare and how it's kind of become privatised, and some other models that she's seen worked really well, and what she thinks. And that, in fact, I recorded a little bit of her talking about that stuff. If I was driving around the Fremantle electorate talking to people in Treeby or Auburn Grove or something, what would you think would be something that would be really beneficial for those kids and those parents in those areas?
Well, if you talk to any parents, the poorest parents, Aboriginal parents, parents who are really struggling, they care deeply about their children, and they want the best for their children. And that includes, the kinds of environments that help those kids be ready for school. It's about, keeping them healthy. And so there are so many things that we could do better in terms of the early years. And they relate to health, of course, and they relate to housing, they relate to lots of things. But in terms of local communities, I'm very excited about the way we can start to counteract the privatisation of the essential services such as childcare. It's been a disaster because it means that if you can afford it, you can get childcare, and the childcare is very inferior to the kind of childcare that, for example, a local council used to provide some years ago, which was a community-based, publicly funded childcare which did not need to make a profit. It did not need to underfeed your child or to not provide something for your child. Same with aged care. And so, the privatised childcare system, which has gone haywire in Australia, it's across everywhere. I don't know what percentage, but a very high percentage of childcare is now privatised. They want to make money. They will cut corners. Have you noticed that childcare centres are always on busy intersections where there's lots of pollution? Yeah. It's because it's cheaper. And so all of these things which are actually damaging your child, you have to work. So you have to use that childcare centre because there isn't another one. It's costing you an arm and a leg, and it's going to cost you more because there's going to be implementations from the government that you have to have better trained people. That's going to put the price up. Yeah. Whereas if you've got a publicly funded childcare, particularly if it's local council, then that you could bring in those regulations. And the people don't have to charge so much for them because it's funded by the government. Yeah. So I get very excited about the idea that we could start shifting back this privatised, very damaging childcare system. Not all private childcare are bad, of course. We've got some good ones in Freo that are good, but on the whole, they are out to make money. So it's very exciting to think you could bring back, look at green space, look at the kind of the wonderful kindergartens that are held in the bush, bush kindergartens. Yeah. Now, they're all publicly funded. Yeah. You don't have to pay a lot to take your kid out into the bush, and for 4 days a week, they've got all this lovely environment that they're in because the local council knows that that's what parents want.
And you're more likely then to have the childcare centre connected then to the other services in the community.
Yes, that's a really good point, Kate. And I mean, when we had the Aboriginal community-controlled early childhood services, it was connected to everything. And I love the idea of the one-stop shop. So you'd actually have your childcare centre embedded in a general practice, not perhaps a big shopping centre. The primary school would be close by. The child health nurse would be there, essential child health nurse, school health nursing, other community services like mum's groups or mum and dad groups and the library. And if you have them as a one-stop shop, I mean, it's like a smorgasbord for kids, and you can come and do what you want to do, and your environment for your child in a beautiful environment, you hope, in a nice green space.
And you're building community because parents are seeing other parents, and the doctor might see what's happening there, and you get a better picture of what's happening over here. You build a proper network, and people feel connected and caring, and there's advocacy for that area and passion about loving where they live.
I mean, what's so interesting about talking to someone like Fiona on a topic like early childhood care is that it's kind of an area that like people are rarely going to go into the nitty gritty of it from either really a policy perspective or, unless you're like working in it or it directly affects your life, which obviously it does for a lot of people, but it's kind of something that like, it's same with education, I feel like often falls off the agenda a lot.
Yeah. And the thing, of course, for Fiona, who is a scientist, she has really rigorous and robust data that backs up why she's saying the things she's saying. She's not just saying be nice for kids. It's like it fundamentally changes their life if they have good early childhood interventions of, good services to help the kids and their parents. So, yeah, that was great. The other thing we did talk a lot about is her real advocacy for the independent movement and the idea about how independent candidates can push the major parties. And she's, like so many people, absolutely sick to death of the inaction of the major parties. So we spoke a little bit about that.
I actually think that the independent candidate movement is the future of how we're going to get our community back on track. I am extremely worried about the nibbling around the edges by the major parties of the huge issues that are facing us as families, as parents, as grandparents, as people who care about the environment, people who care about integrity in government. And I just cannot believe that they're not tackling these big issues. You don't have to go into Parliament. You are an ordinary, very successful person. All of the independents have done great things before. The only reason they want to go in and represent the people is because they care deeply. And that to me is a huge advantage. You don't have to toe a party line and you can talk to your community. And the other thing that's been exciting about the independent movement, it has arisen out of the kitchen table conversations where people sort of went and said, well, what do you think about these issues? What's really worrying you? Not that this is my party line, not that you've got to follow Dutton or Albanese because they're the ones who are, they don't have their finger on the pulse. What you're going to do is get that finger on the pulse and be able to represent them. But you're not going to be beholden to anyone telling you what to do. So the other thing, of course, being a scientist, epidemiologist, is that you're going to be able to get the best evidence. Now, if somebody in a main party gets a very good evidence of an intervention, but it doesn't agree with party policy, you can forget it.
That's right.
So we've got this wonderful combination. You're there because you care. You've got a community that you can listen to and actually act upon. You've got the best evidence because you're going to go out and get that because you can, and you don't have to be saying, oh, I'm not going to pursue that because the party wouldn't like me to. And then you're going to have, hopefully in a hung parliament, enough people that you can work with, the other independents, the crossbench, the Jackie Lambies and so on, and say, come on, we might be able to make a difference to Australian society. How exciting is that? So I am very, very supportive of the independent movement, given the current way that politics is being done in Australia and actually in quite a few other countries.
So you're not afraid by a crossbench and a hung parliament? That's not scary to you?
Not at all. I mean, bring it on.
So that was a remarkable and beautiful morning. I borrowed the book that she recently co-wrote and have been directed straight to her Chapter 9 Indigenous-led Health Research Agenda. And yeah, gorge.
Beautiful.
Total living legend.
Fast forward to Sunday morning, you were out door knocking and you gave me just a brief rundown on how that went. I feel like the sentiments are quite similar. Like obviously Fiona's coming from one angle and the frustration is deep-seated for certain reasons. And then there's, people that you're speaking to out in the community who have their own frustrations.
Yeah, probably worth noting that at 11:30 on Saturday night, I was driving around Jandakot, bashing in call flutes on roundabouts on the side of the freeway. It was really fun. And
how'd the old ute go out there?
Yeah, I mean, I just bumping up on curbs. Is this one way? It's the only time to do it is at night because it's embarrassing for the things that you're doing. Anyway, clambering around, I saw one rat,
So if the people are out in Jandakot, they'll be seeing a whole suite of new
sign upside down? Yeah. Why is it facing backwards? Sunday morning door knocking, and that was in Spearwood today, which was really great. There was probably 20 of us, perhaps, off in our little teams, and it's always really reassuring. It's the most effective way of talking to people, obviously, and getting actual information out of them. It's slow going, but man, it's worth it. And we had kind of the full range of response from the people we knocked. And
what's the full range? People
what are the
extremes?
Like, oh no, thanks. I don't care about politics. I'm not even interested. Some people who were absolutely sick to back teeth of progressives, or always had voted for Labor and that's just what they'd done, but they're kind of fine. They don't really have an opinion. Some people who were definitely liberal leaning and again so sick of things. Every single one of them feels like they're not being served well. They're being ripped off. They can't believe that we live in this wealthy country full of minerals and sun and beautiful clean oceans, and we are struggling to buy houses, struggling to buy a bag of groceries, struggling to get care for our kids through NDIS, all those sorts of things. And again, it's just so reassuring that this is why we're doing it, People are so sick of party politics and fighting and stupid one-upping each other and just the lack of any actual action on anything at all. And so we're saying, did you know you've got an independent candidate to vote for? And people had not been door knocked before there, and so they couldn't believe that there was someone actually asking them questions, and questions that were very specific to them. And someone said that who was it? It must have been someone that was door knocking last weekend, and I think they just followed one of the major parties. So they kind of previously that day or that week, a major party had knocked. And the person who was the receiver, the knockee, said the party person was just kind of like selling this is what we've done and this is what we've done and this is what we've done. Like,
they're not there to listen.
No, they're like, oh, look at all the things that we've achieved. And it's actually really hard to prove you've achieved anything when the country's going, kind of emotionally and physically and economically in a crawling kind of way. Yeah. So it was really great. And there were, pensioners and people with kids, people who had gone through really difficult times. One family, three kids, pregnant woman, were out of home, couldn't find any housing. She was 10 days out of having a baby and they found a place. And, just all that kind of, just the rigor of life that's difficult and hard and it impacts you. And you do get cheesed off with politics, of course. And it's nice to feel that you can have someone that might give a shit about you.
I know that last week you were feeling like a bit overwhelmed with the scope of the federal sort of context, having come from just doing the state campaign and then trying to sort of reconnect into what are we doing here outside of, obviously the very clear motivation that the community's asked for and that there's this momentum, but that feeling of the kind of federal parliament itself feeling really far away and really ephemeral and hard to kind of, does that all kind of disappear when you go out and speak to people?
It certainly does. But I think people need to grip onto something like what is it you're standing for? What is it that who are you? They're kind of searching for that sort of thing. So then I can just say, well, I'm not here because I really want to be a politician and I want to start a party or something. I'm here because a whole group of the community wanted someone that was outside the party system, and that's the only reason I'm doing this. And I think when I say that, and I'm not desperate to be in Canberra every week. I'm not desperate, but I am absolutely desperate that our country does better and our leaders perform better, and that's what I can offer you. I think that resonates with them, because I'm pissed off like you're pissed off, I'm at the end of my tether like you are. And there was one great couple who were just like, we are over it, we are over it. We've tried everything. And I said, me too. And so this is something else I'm trying. And what I will promise you is that I will work on your behalf at all times. I saw an article today in the ABC about a candidate for Labor in Tassie who said, I reckon we should stop native forest, like logging, and had to rewind because Party HQ said, girl, that is not our line. So then they said, she's just a naive young girl. She does not know.
That's what they say about you.
I know, but I'm not young, so there's a difference.
Sucked in. Well, I mean, what a weekend.
Yeah. I mean, I want to ask you about yours, but I think it might not be quite. We'll do that off.
Off camera. If anyone's got any specific questions about my weekend, they can ask in the comments.
Can you give us one joke or anecdote? Or
absolutely
something?
not.
Okay.
No.
What goes on tour stays on tour.
It's only your personal life that's here to be mined.
Okay. All right. Other thing to update on?
Ye old Section 44.
This is just funny because
I can't wait until you're old and you have all your Herald ads framed in your pool
This
room.
isn't an ad. Front page of the Herald.
Articles.
Hulett in desperate race to renounce British citizenship. So that was the front page of this week, which was nice when I was having a little coffee just to see that relaxing headline.
Gorge.
We did get an email from someone saying,
you should try this guy.
Try this dude. So I tried that dude. Got a response from someone in the UK saying, we're
onto it.
I'll see if I can, make sure the right person sees it. So
we
emailed that guy, called the Deputy High Commissioner guy, who was really nice, and I said, if he was successful in helping all these candidates renounce their citizenship, we would host a party for him in his honour. And we would invite him. And then he was like, okay,
but
you're crazy.
He said he's got how many candidates?
He said double digits.
Right.
Which means 10 plus.
Trying to renounce.
Desperately like going, can you help? And so, I mean, it wasn't lost on him that if you do win your seat and then you sit in Parliament, you have to pledge allegiance to the Crown, the King, which is weird that you then have to, prior to that, give up your
passport
allegiance.
Sorry.
So he was completely sympathetic and said, we can talk about how crazy this clause is another time. And that's when I said, we'll have a party for you and we're going to have dinner next week. Just kidding. We're not.
He's a bit far away anyway.
Yeah, but he sounded charming because he's British.
Of course.
So no update aside from front cover news and
little phone chat.
High Commissioner and
that's good chat.
Yeah.
So we've got we're a bit unclear on the deadline last time, but now we know it's
3.5 days.
And it's got to come from the UK, so
I mean, email is
I don't know
instant,
how it works. Time zones.
So that could just be sent and then arrive. I don't know if you've heard of email.
No,
I don't know if it has to be hard copy.
I didn't mean it was going to take time to get here from England.
Signature on it, but it might have to.
We're not back at the...
Here we are.
No.
So hopefully Monday we'll have a inbox update.
Cool.
But nothing,
how exciting.
Nothing British over the weekend.
We'll keep you all posted.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so...
That's the end. So we have to tell everyone to follow, like, subscribe, whatever it is.
Share.
On any channel that you're listening to A Piece of Cake on. Share it with your friends.
Piece of cake. Share it with your pals.
Leave a comment.
Leave a review.
Ask things in the comments.
Someone gave us a 9 out of 10 review on just the Instagram comments. So it didn't really count, but I did appreciate that.
It's kind of banana bread.
I was a little bit offended. It wasn't 10 out of 10, I've got to say. But
it gives us something to work
better
for.
Than 4.
You're much better when you're working for, little dog.
I'm
like,
a people pleaser.
I
mean, if you cut me, I'm people pleasing, bloody, bleeding everywhere. Okay, well, I feel like, do you want a core flute? Do you want a T-shirt? Do you want to volunteer? You can do all of those things. Letterbox drop. Yes. You go on our website, kateforfremantle.com. It's
Everything's there.
basically a form that you can just check the things that you like.
And then you get a really nice phone call from one of our beautiful team.
Oh, okay.
Oh, God.
One last thing we forgot. This is huge. If you're listening to this on Monday,
Which,
you may or may not be.
true.
If you're listening to this on Monday, you have till 8 p.m. today to register to vote, and you just have to go on www.aec.gov.au. It takes
Literally 2
some
seconds.
minutes of, I don't know how long, but very quick. Register your details. If you're in the electorate of Fremantle particularly, update it and submit it, and then you are able to vote in the federal election this year. And it's really important if you just turned 18, if you've moved house, or you can just check it in a memento.
And tell your friends. I mean, give out a little text update today.
Yeah. You
Enrollment's
guys
closing.
updated your, what's it? If you pass a P-plate driver.
Friends don't like friends. Not update there.
Granny.
Enrollment. I'm old.
Yes.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
See you tomorrow. Bye.
Authorised by Kate Hulett, 106 High Street Mall, Fremantle.